Welcome to Journey of Truths, where we dive into the experiences that shape us and the paths we take towards healing and growth. Today, we're exploring a topic that many people carry silently: the impact of trauma on our lives. Trauma isn't just something that happened in the past, it leaves lasting effects on how we think, feel, and connect with others. In this episode, we'll look at what trauma is, the different ways it can affect us, and how understanding and addressing its impact is so important. I'm your host, Kimberly Janelle. Let's dive in. What is trauma? Let's start with a clear understanding of what trauma actually is. Trauma is a deep emotional response to distressing or life-altering events. It can stem from various experiences: abuse, loss, neglect, sudden changes, or anything that overwhelms our capacity to cope. Trauma isn't just about the event, it's about how that experience leaves a lasting impression on our minds and bodies. Trauma reshapes our mental, our emotional, and even physical responses. It can affect how we see ourselves, how we trust ourselves, and how we view the world. It's not something we can just get over or forget, even if we think it's behind us. How trauma affects our daily lives. The effects of trauma aren't always obvious. Sometimes trauma influences us in ways we don't even recognize. Here are some common ways it can affect us. Emotional reactions. Trauma can heighten your emotional responses, making us more sensitive to stress or easily overwhelmed. For some, this means feeling anxious or fearful in situations that remind them of the trauma, even if they're not aware of the connection. Self-perception. Trauma often leaves us questioning our self-worth. We might feel shame, guilt, or unworthiness, even if the trauma wasn't our fault. These feelings can impact our confidence and lead us to doubt ourselves. Relationships. Trauma can shape our relationships in profound ways. Some people struggle with trust, while others may have difficulty setting boundaries. Trauma can cause us to either avoid closeness to protect ourselves or cling to relationships out of fear of abandonment. Physical health. Trauma affects the body as well as the mind. It can lead to chronic stress, fatigue, digestive issues, and other physical symptoms. The body holds on to trauma, and these effects can manifest even years after the traumatic event. Understanding these impacts help us realize that trauma isn't just something in the past. It lives with us, shaping our responses and behaviors in subtle, powerful ways. Why we often ignore trauma's impact. Many people avoid confronting the impact of trauma. Some of this is due to defense mechanisms like denial or repression, where our minds try to protect us from painful memories. Society also plays a role. We're often encouraged to quote unquote move on or quote unquote be strong instead of acknowledging what we've been through. We might also avoid facing trauma because of the fear of change. Confronting trauma means you might need to make changes in your lives, our relationships, or our routines, and change can feel unsettling. But ignoring trauma doesn't erase it. It only buries it deeper, where it continues to influence us unconsciously. The benefits of addressing trauma. Facing trauma is challenging, but the benefits are profound. When we start to address trauma, we gain a better understanding of ourselves. We begin to see patterns in our behaviors, understand why we react a certain way, and realize that these responses are rooted in our past experiences. Addressing trauma helps us reclaim control. Instead of living in reaction to past pain, we can start to respond to life with clarity, intention, and peace. This process allows us to build healthier relationships, set boundaries that protect our well being, and create a life that isn't defined by past pain. Moving forward on the path to healing. Healing from trauma isn't a quick fix, it's a journey. It often involves seeking support, whether through therapy, self reflection, or leaning on trusted friends and family. Practices like journaling, mindfulness, and self compassion can also support the healing process by helping us connect with and understand ourselves. The path to healing is about more than just overcoming pain. It's about building a life where we feel free, safe, and able to fully experience joy. By addressing trauma, we're not just revisiting the past, we're creating a more empowered, resilient, and authentic future. Thank you for joining me today for today's episode of Journey of Truths. Trauma may shape parts of who you are, but it doesn't define us. When we take steps to address it, we're giving ourselves the opportunity to live with greater freedom, peace, and connection. If this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear this message. Remember, healing is a journey, and you don't have to walk it alone. Until next time, take care of yourself, honor your journey, and keep moving forward.